I was halfway through clapping when I realized he wasn't applauding for our son, he was standing in front of our entire family, friends, teachers, classmates, and strangers. Gregory tapped his champagne glass and flashed that fake smile I'd memorized after 22 years of marriage. And then he did it. I just want to say, I'm finally free. He raised his glass. Free. I've filed for divorce, he said. Life's too short to stay unhappy. The murmurs, gasps, even a few chuckles from the crowd echoed in my ears like a slow implosion. Our son Liam was frozen behind the podium, his valedictorian speech still in his hands. The only sound was the buzz of a camera clicking, someone capturing the moment my life should have shattered. I looked at Gregory. That smug face, that pathetic attempt at reclaiming his youth, his new suit tighter than necessary, his overly whitened teeth, his fingers freshly manicured by someone who wasn't me. He had humiliated me in public at our son's graduation, no less, and expected me to fall apart, to cry, to scream. But what he didn't know was that I had already filed for divorce 3 weeks ago. And by the time he walked out of the house this morning, suitcase in hand, humming some ridiculous tune like he was about to star in his own romantic comedy, I had already taken everything. My name is Elena Bradford. I'm 51 years old. I've been married to Gregory for 22 years, and for 19 of them I didn't realize I was disappearing. I met him in my late 20s, back when I had just finished my graduate degree in comparative literature. I was a newly hired lecturer with too many dreams and not enough money. Gregory was magnetic, older by 6 years, charismatic, successful in pharmaceutical sales. He was also recently divorced and determined not to make the same mistakes again. You're different, he told me. You make me feel safe. I fell for him fast. It wasn't just the flowers or the getaways, it was the way he looked at me when I quoted Virginia Woolf, how he claimed he loved that I was passionate, intense. I believed he saw me. We married after 18 months. I didn't want a huge wedding, but he insisted. I wore my mother's vintage veil, and I remember standing in that garden under the old oak trees thinking, this is what happiness feels like. Our son Liam was born a year later, and then came the slow unraveling of who I was. I dropped from full-time lecturer to adjunct, then eventually stopped teaching altogether. Gregory was traveling more and more, and we agreed it would be best for Liam to have one parent grounded at home. It's just for now, I said. That now stretched into decades. I didn't mind at first. I was good at homemaking, more than that I took pride in it. I made our house a warm place. I packed Liam's lunches with handwritten notes. I baked from scratch. I created holiday magic. I handled everything: schedules, repairs, doctor's appointments, sick days, in-laws, taxes. I was the scaffolding holding our family together. And Gregory started changing around year 12. He became colder, smiled less, stopped asking about my day. I chalked it up to stress. Then came the dismissive tone, the subtle criticisms. He started sighing whenever I spoke during dinner. He'd correct me in front of Liam, made jokes at my expense, nothing cruel, just enough. He began calling me intense in a different way, like it was a flaw. At first I internalized it. Maybe I was too emotional, too sensitive, too boring. But then things shifted with Liam. Our son, bless him, is brilliant. He's curious and driven, kind to a fault. I raised him to be like that, taught him to notice people's emotions, to speak with integrity. And around age 15, he started looking at his father the way I used to, with wide-eyed admiration. Gregory soaked it up. He loved being admired. He started telling Liam stories about back when I was a real man and how marriage traps you if you're not careful. And I saw my son's eyes flick to me in those moments, unsure, confused. I could tell Liam sensed something was off. He wasn't home much senior year, partly from his activities, partly, I think, to avoid the growing tension. By then, Gregory had started taking solo trips. There were sudden sales conferences and late-night meetings that didn't make sense. The final shift came 6 months before Liam's graduation. Gregory was sitting on the couch one night, laptop open, half pretending to watch a documentary I'd suggested. He wasn't really paying attention. I asked him something about the footage. He muttered a reply that didn't make sense. You're not even listening, I said gently. And he snapped, because it's boring, Elena, like everything else these days. I froze. His tone wasn't angry, it was indifferent, and somehow that was worse. I think we both know this isn't working anymore, he continued. We've outgrown each other. I didn't respond. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. That night, while he slept in the guest room, something he'd started doing more often for his back, I pulled out my laptop and looked up divorce attorneys. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I researched. By the end of the week, I had hired someone discreet, someone excellent. And I began gathering the bank accounts I'd had limited access for years. But I knew how to dig. I found discrepancies, patterns. There were transfers to a woman named Laurel, an interior designer apparently. A woman I had never met but whose name came up on one of Gregory's credit card statements. I played dumb. I smiled. I packed his lunches like nothing had changed. Meanwhile, I collected documents, emailed my attorney, and opened an account in my name only. Gregory had no idea. In April, I served the papers. My lawyer had arranged it so that he would be notified, but not immediately. It was a strategic delay, a 21-day response window. He thought he was in control. He wasn't. And then came graduation day. I knew something was coming. He'd been acting strangely confident that week, like a man rehearsing a speech in the mirror. But I didn't expect him to do it there in public. When he stood up, glass raised, and declared his freedom, I could feel the attention shift to me. Everyone expected me to break. His side of the family waited for my dramatic exit. Liam stared at his father like he was watching a stranger. I didn't say a word. I stood up, kissed Liam on the head, and walked to the back of the auditorium, calm, serene. By the time Gregory would open his front door that night, our door, the one he assumed was still his, I would already be gone. The house would be stripped of my belongings, the joint account drained into a secured trust, the deed to the house now in dispute, the car title transferred, the passwords changed, the retirement portfolio frozen pending mediation. I had taken everything that mattered, and it had all been done weeks ago. Gregory just didn't know yet. The silence in our car was deafening as we drove home after the ceremony. Gregory hadn't expected to ride with me. He'd parked separately, no doubt, thinking he'd leave in a blaze of selfish glory with his suitcase packed and his phone buzzing with texts from Laurel or whoever he thought would celebrate his little victory. But Liam had insisted on taking photos with both parents after the ceremony. He pulled me close. He didn't say anything about Gregory's announcement. His expression didn't shift. But when his arm wrapped around my shoulder, it lingered a little longer than usual. A silent, "Are you okay?" that I answered with a firm nod. Gregory walked behind us like a man who thought he'd won. I think he was basking in the attention, relatives whispering, friends unsure how to react, and him shrugging like some brave victim of domestic stagnation. I caught him texting someone behind Liam's back. His face lit up, and I wondered how many lies he had already fed to her about me. As we pulled into our driveway, I waited for it. That moment when Gregory would discover the truth. He exited his car first. I stayed back watching from the driver's seat. My heart thudded not from fear, but anticipation. He fumbled with the front door key. Didn't work. He paused, jiggled it, tried again. Still nothing. I saw his brow furrow. He knocked. Knocked again, then turned to face the driveway like maybe I could explain the glitch. I stepped out calmly. "You don't live here anymore," I said. "What?" I walked up the front path, pulling a cream-colored envelope from my purse. "Your notice of service. You've been served." He stared at the paper, blinking. "What are you talking about?" "I filed 3 weeks ago," I said. "You'll find everything inside. Asset details, frozen accounts, legal filings." Wait, Elena, are you serious?" "Oh, I'm very serious. I'm just not loud about it in front of our child's entire graduating class." His face went pale. "You can't just, you didn't, what the hell did you do to the house?" "I protected what was mine," I replied. "I gave up 22 years for this family, for you. And while you were out playing midlife crisis with some woman whose job title sounds like it came from a lifestyle blog, I was working with lawyers, accountants, and mediators. Quietly, thoroughly." His mouth opened, then shut. Liam stepped out of the car, then slowly approaching. "Dad," he said, his voice low, "you should probably go." Gregory looked between us, me steady and calm, Liam disappointed and done. And for the first time in years, I saw something crack in Gregory's posture. A flicker of fear, of recognition that he was no longer the center of this narrative. He left that night, took a rideshare to wherever. I didn't ask, I didn't care. Inside the house, I poured myself a glass of wine and stared out the kitchen window while Liam reheated leftovers. "You okay?" he asked. "I think I've been preparing for this for years," I told him. "You're kind of a badass," he said. I smiled. Over the next few days, the fallout began. Gregory tried to access the accounts. Locked. He tried to withdraw from the brokerage. Blocked. He tried to get into the house again. The locks had been changed. Legally. He left a long, pathetic voicemail the next day. Said he felt blindsided. Claimed he only announced the divorce that way because he thought I'd be too soft to ever actually do anything. That voicemail was forwarded to my attorney. I found myself breathing easier, sleeping deeper. I hadn't realized how much tension I'd carried in my body, shoulders, constantly tight stomach, always in knots. With Gregory gone, the silence in the house wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. But more than that, it was empowering. I started going back to things I used to love. Mornings with coffee and my old poetry books. I reached out to a former colleague about teaching part-time again. She was thrilled to hear from me. The house felt lighter, cleaner. Not because it had been purged of his things, but because it had been reclaimed by me. Gregory, meanwhile, was unraveling. Laurel had apparently not signed up for a bankrupt midlife runaway who couldn't deliver the lifestyle he'd promised. When she found out he was under court-ordered financial restrictions, she blocked him. He called me the following week, voice hoarse and panicked. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. He followed up with an email. Then another. Then a long, poorly formatted letter delivered by courier that read like a confusing mash of guilt, apology, and blame. But it didn't matter, because I wasn't waiting for his remorse. I had already left him emotionally long before I filed those papers. And now finally, legally, I was free. My next step wasn't revenge. It was rebirth. But what I didn't know then, what no one did, was that Gregory hadn't just betrayed me. There was another secret buried behind his self-righteous smirk, one I was about to uncover. And when I did everything, everything would shift again. I didn't go looking for it. I wasn't snooping or investigating or digging through drawers like a woman still obsessed with what her ex was hiding. The truth practically fell into my lap. It started with a phone call from the insurance company. "Hi, Mrs. Bradford. We just need to verify the recent change of beneficiary on Mr. Gregory Bradford's life insurance policy." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "Yes," the woman said cheerfully, as if she were confirming a pizza order. "Mr. Bradford submitted a request last month to change his primary beneficiary from Elena Bradford to Laurel Jennings." I almost laughed. Almost. But my chest tightened in that familiar way, tight like a vice. Like how it used to feel every time Gregory lied and I knew he was lying but didn't have the proof. Except now I had more than proof. I had a paper trail. "Thank you," I said, holding my voice steady. "I'll follow up with my attorney." I hung up, leaned against the kitchen counter, and let the silence settle. A switch flipped in me. Not fear, not heartbreak. Something colder, sharper. He'd tried to erase me, even in death. It was the timing that sent a chill down my spine. He made the change a month before the graduation. Before he stood there and publicly announced our divorce. Back when he was still pretending he didn't know I was planning to leave. So this wasn't just arrogance, it was premeditated. That night, I pulled out every financial document I'd stored over the years. I reviewed the estate plan, the assets, the retirement policies, and buried at the bottom of the files was an old trust agreement. Signed when Liam was born, Gregory had set up a separate trust account, a significant one for our son's education and future needs. Except here's the catch, the trustee wasn't me. It was Gregory alone. He'd never told me that. And the only way I found out was because the annual update statement had been forwarded to my address instead of his temporary P.O. box. According to the most recent balance sheet, hundreds of thousands of dollars had been withdrawn over the past 2 years. I stared at the transaction logs. Boutiques in New York, a design consultancy in Paris, plane tickets, jewelry stores. It wasn't for Liam. It was for her. He had drained our son's trust fund to impress Laurel. The man who stood up and humiliated me at our son's graduation had stolen from that very son to fund his affair. I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't just betrayal. This was theft, from a child, from our child. I spent the next morning in my lawyer's office, the documents spread across her desk, like puzzle pieces. She flipped through them with increasing tension in her face. "I'm going to be blunt," she said finally. "This is financial misconduct. It crosses into criminal territory." My hands gripped the armrests of the leather chair. "What do? We go after him. Hard. This changes everything." And so we did. Gregory was served with a petition for a forensic audit. We demanded full transparency of every account he'd touched. And because I'd kept my side clean, because I had always managed the household, the bills, the taxes, his paper trail was a mess compared to mine. He tried to stall, claimed he'd accidentally used the wrong account. tried to argue that the trust money was technically his to manage. But the court didn't see it that way. Neither did Liam. When he found out, he didn't yell, didn't break down. He just sat on the porch swing with a look in his eyes I'd never seen before. Disgust. "How do you steal from your own kid?" he asked me. I didn't have an answer. The final blow came a month later when Gregory showed up to one of Liam's scholarship dinners uninvited, wearing a too-tight suit and that same old smirk. He tried to shake hands with the dean, tried to get close to the photographers. Liam walked straight past him, didn't say a word, didn't even look his way. That night, Gregory left another voicemail. I played it once, then again, then deleted it without responding. He was unraveling, slowly, publicly. But that wasn't the part that gave me closure. What gave me closure was watching my son thrive, because in the ashes of everything Gregory tried to destroy, Liam rose. Stronger, wiser, unshaken. He got into Columbia, started mentoring younger students, spoke on panels about ethics and leadership. Every time he spoke, I heard little echoes of myself, my values, my quiet strength reflected back in his words. And I knew then that Gregory hadn't broken me. He had freed me. He'd tried to humiliate me, tried to take everything, tried to rewrite the story with himself as the tragic hero. But I had taken it all back. Not just the money, the dignity, the narrative, the future. And Gregory, he was just a footnote, a cautionary tale, an afterthought in the story of a woman who rose from betrayal, not with rage, but with relentless grace.